Hi, everyone, and welcome to the IO Edge, where industrial organizational psychology meets the fast-paced world of modern HR. I'm your host, Dr. Jacqueline Miner. This podcast is dedicated to HR professionals, managers, and IO psychologists looking to lead with insight, strategy, and confidence. Whether you're an HR professional looking to level up or an IO psych grad wondering where you fit in the business world, this podcast gives you the tools and insight to lead with purpose. On today's podcast, we will discuss motivation and engagement, what actually works, backed by science. If you've ever wondered why some employees consistently go above and beyond while others seem to do the bare minimum, you're asking one of the most important questions in organizational psychology. What actually motivates people at work? Today, we're cutting through the motivational poster platitudes and diving into three foundational theories that are backed by decades of research. We'll explore what these theories tell us about human motivation, how they apply to real workplace scenarios, and most importantly, what you can do Monday morning to create a more engaged workforce. We're talking about Maslow's hierarchy of needs, goal-setting theory, and expectancy theory. These aren't just academic concepts, they're practical frameworks that explore why certain HR initiatives succeed while others fail. Let's start with a theory you've probably heard of, but may not fully understand how to apply in today's workforce. Maslow's hierarchy of needs was established in 1943. And it remains one of the most recognized theories in psychology. The basic premise is elegant. Humans have different levels of needs, and we're primarily motivated to fulfill lower level needs before we can focus on higher level ones. Think of it as a pyramid with 5 levels. So level 1 deals with psychological needs. So these are our basic survival needs: food, water, shelter, and sleep. In the workplace, this translates to fair wages that allow employees to meet their basic living expenses, reasonable work hours that don't lead to exhaustion, and safe, comfortable working conditions. Level 2 deals with safety needs. Once psychological needs are met, we seek security and stability. At work, this means job security, health insurance, retirement benefits, workplace safety programs, and predictable organizational policies. This directly connects to the OSHA mandated training we see referenced in HR certification materials, which addresses both physical safety and the psychological safety of knowing how hazards are managed. Level 3 deals with love and belonging. Humans are social creatures. We need positive relationships, team cohesion, and a sense of belonging. Think about team building activities, collaborative work structures, and inclusive organizational cultures. The socialization process discussed in talent management programs directly addresses this need by helping new employees integrate into the organizational community. Level 4 is esteem needs. We need recognition, respect, and a sense of achievement. This is where performance management systems, recognition programs, merit-based promotions, and professional development opportunities come into play. Level 5 is self-actualization. At the top of the pyramid is the need to reach our full potential, engage in meaningful work, and pursue professional growth. Career development programs, mentoring relationships, and opportunities for creative problem solving address this highest level. Here's where it gets practical. As an HR professional or manager, you need to diagnose where your employees are on this hierarchy. You cannot effectively motivate someone with a leadership development opportunity, a self-actualization strategy, if they're worried about losing their job or can't afford their rent. The lower level need will always take precedence. Let me give you a real world example. I once worked with an organization that was frustrated because their employee recognition program wasn't improving engagement. They had implemented a wall of fame and quarterly award ceremonies. But here's the problem: they had just gone through layoffs, and many employees were on contract status with no benefits. The organization was trying to address esteem needs when their workforce was stuck at the safety level, worried about job security. The recognition program failed because it was solving the wrong problem. This connects directly to what we see in performance management research. According to HRCP's Unit 3 materials, effective performance evaluation serves multiple purposes. It guides HR decisions, rewards and motivates employees, promotes personal development, and identifies training needs. But notice that motivation is just one component, and it only works when the foundational needs are secure. Now, let's be honest about Maslow's limitations. Because good IO psychology means acknowledging what the research actually shows. First, the hierarchy isn't as rigid as the pyramid suggests. People don't always move sequentially through levels. Someone might pursue self actualization through volunteer work, even while struggling financially. Cultural differences matter too. Collectivist cultures may prioritize belonging needs differently than individualistic cultures. Second, Maslow's theory was based on studying a limited sample, primarily educated white males, and lacks robust empirical validation. The research doesn't strongly support the idea that needs must be satisfied in a strict sequential order. Third, the theory doesn't account for individual differences well. Two employees at the same salary level might be motivated by completely different factors based on their personal circumstances, values, and life stages. Despite these limitations, Maslow gives us a useful diagnostic framework. When you're designing retention strategies, and Unit 3 emphasizes that employee retention should be a major focus on HR professionals, you need to consider the full spectrum of employee needs. Start with an organizational analysis, similar to what we do in training needs assessments. Are your base compensation and benefits competitive? Is job security a concern? Do employees feel psychologically safe and included? Are there clear paths for recognition and advancement? Are there opportunities for meaningful, challenging work? The key insight in this: motivation is not one size fits all, and timing matters. Match your interventions to where employees actually are on the needs hierarchy, not where you wish they were. Now let's shift to a theory that perhaps even more practical and evidence-based: goal setting theory. If I had to choose one motivation theory with the strongest empirical support, it would be goal setting theory, developed by Edwin Locke and Gary Latham in the 1960s and refined over decades of research. The core finding is surprisingly straightforward: specific, challenging goals lead to higher performance than vague or easy goals. But the devil and the practical application is in the details. Locke and Latham identified 5 key principles that make goals effective. One is clarity. Goals must be clear and specific, not vague. Improve customer service is weak. Respond to 95% of customer inquiries within 24 hours is specific and measurable. 2, challenge. Goals should stretch people beyond their comfort zone, but remain achievable. This creates what psychologists call optimal arousal, enough difficulty to engage effort and attention, but not so much that it feels impossible. 3 is commitment. People must buy into the goal. This is where participation in goal setting becomes crucial. Goals imposed from above without explanation or input typically generate less commitment. 4 is feedback. Regular feedback on progress is essential. Without it, people can't adjust their strategies or maintain motivation. This connects directly to what Unit 3 describes as continuous feedback in performance management systems. Number 5, task complexity. For complex tasks, people may need to break goals into sub goals and may need additional resources, training, or support to achieve them. Now, here's where this gets relevant to your HR certification and practice. Goal setting theory is the psychological foundation underlying management by objectives, or MBO, which many of you will recognize from your HRCP materials. So, Unit 3 describes MBO as both a performance evaluation procedure and a philosophy of management. MBO focuses on accomplishing results rather than just performing activities, and it emphasizes the participation and involvement of employees in organizational affairs. Sound familiar? That's goal setting theory in action. The MBO process typically includes 4 key principles that align perfectly with goal setting research. Goal set: establishing clear, measurable objectives at organizational, departmental, and individual levels. This addresses the clarity and specifies principles from Locke and Latham's research. Delegation: giving employees autonomy in how they achieve their goals. This builds commitment and taps into intrinsic motivation. Feedback reviews: regular check ins to discuss progress, adjust strategies, and provide support. This is a feedback principle we discussed earlier. Evaluation: assessing performance based on objective achievement rather than subjective impressions. This makes the system more fair and motivating. The research is clear. Organizations that implement MBO correctly see improvements in both performance and employee satisfaction. But, and this is important, MBO fails when it becomes a bureaucratic exercise focused only on documentation rather than genuine performance improvement and development. Most of you are familiar with SMART goals, but let's break down why this framework works from a psychological perspective. Specific: engaged, engages focused attention and clarifies expectations. Vague goals like do your best consistently underperform specific topics in research studies. Measurable: allows for the feedback that's essential to motivation. If you can't measure progress, you can't maintain effort over time. Achievable: addresses the challenge principle. Goals should stretch capabilities but remain within reach with reasonable effort. Relevant: ensures alignment between individual goals and organizational strategy, which is crucial for both motivation and strategic HR planning. Time bond: creates urgency and allows for planning and resource allocation. Here's a practical tip. When you're setting goals with employees, have them develop the specific action plans for achieving those goals. Research shows that when people create their own implementation strategies, they're more likely to follow through. It's about combining the goal setting power with employee autonomy. Let me warn you about 3 common mistakes I see organizations make with goal setting. Mistake number 1, too many goals. Research suggests that focusing on 3 to 5 key goals is optimal. More than that, and you dilute attention and effort. Everything becomes a priority, which means nothing is truly a priority. Mistake number 2, setting goals without providing resources. If you set a challenging goal but don't give people the training, tools, or time to achieve it, you're setting them up for failure and demotivation. This connects to the training and development principles in Unit 3, Strategic Alignment Matters. Mistake number 3, using goals punitively. When goals are tied only to punishment for missing them, rather than recognition for achieving them, they become demotivating. This brings us to our next theory, which explains why. Viktor Vroom's expectancy theory developed in 1964, gives us perhaps the most practical framework for understanding motivation in the workplace. Unlike Maslow's focus on needs or goal settings focus on targets, expectancy theory explains the cognitive process people go through when deciding how much effort to put into their work. The theory proposes that motivation is a function of three components, and here's the crucial part: all three must be present for high motivation. If any component is zero, motivation is zero. It's multiplicative, not additive. So let me break down the three components. Expectancy, which means effort to performance. This is a belief that my effort will actually lead to good performance. It's the answer to the question: if I try really hard, will I actually succeed? Expectancy is influenced by things like self-efficacy, whether the person has the necessary skills and training, whether they have adequate resources, and whether they have support from their manager. This connects directly to the learning principles and training methods discussed in Unit 3. If employees haven't received proper training, their expectancy will be low no matter how much effort they exert. Instrumentality correlates to performance and outcomes. So, this is the belief that people's performance will actually lead to the promised outcomes. It's about trust in the system. Do high performers actually get promoted? Are raises really tied to performance? Or is it all politics and favoritism? This is where organizational credibility comes into play. If your performance management system doesn't actually differentiate between high and low performers, if everyone gets the same 3% raise regardless of performance, instrumentality drops to zero. And balance, value of outcomes. This is how much the person values the potential rewards. Not everyone wants the same thing. One employee might be highly motivated by a promotion that requires more responsibility. Another might value work-life balance and see that same promotion as a negative outcome. Here's why this matters practically. Motivation equals expectancy times instrumentality times balance. If any of these three factors is zero, the total motivation is zero. Let me give you three scenarios to illustrate. Scenario 1, low expectancy. An employee is promised a bonus for completing a complex data analytics project. The instrumentality is high. They trust they'll get the bonus. And the balance is high. They really want the money. But they've never received training in data analytics. Their expectation is near zero. They don't believe their effort will lead to success. Results: low motivation. Scenario number 2, low instrumentality. A sales team is told that the top performer will receive a major bonus. Everyone has the skills to succeed, high expectancy, and everyone wants the bonus, high balance. But the company has a history of canceling bonuses when budget gets tight. Instrumentality is low because employees don't trust the promise. Result: low motivation. And scenario number 3, low balance. A technically oriented employee is told that great performance could lead to promotion into management. They have the skills, which is high expectancy, and the trust the organization, high instrumentality. But they hate managing people and want to stay in a technical role. The balance is actually negative. The reward is seen as punishment. Result: low motivation and possibly turnover. So, expectancy theory helps us understand why the reinforcement contingencies described in Unit 3 work the way that they do. Remember, Unit 3 discusses operant conditioning and how behavior is shaped through consequences. The document describes 5 reinforcement contingencies: positive reinforcement, which is desired responses followed by positive reinforcers. Punishment, wrong response followed by unpleasant consequences. Avoidance, making a response to avoid unpleasant consequences. Escape, making a response to terminate unpleasant consequences. Extinction, no reinforcement to terminate behavior. So, expectancy theory explains why reinforcements sometimes fail. If employees don't see the connection between their behavior and the consequences, low instrumentality, reinforcement doesn't work. If they don't value the reinforcer, low variance, it doesn't motivate. And if they don't believe they can perform the desired behavior, low expectancy, even the most attractive reward won't generate effort. This is why Unit 3 emphasizes that training evaluation must examine whether training actually transfers to job performance. You can have the best training program in the world, but if organizational factors prevent employees from applying what they learned, maybe their manager won't let them use new methods, or they don't have the necessary tools, then expectancy drops and performance won't improve. So, how do you apply expectancy theory as an HR professional? Provide thorough training and development following the ODI model described in Unit 3. Ensure employees have adequate resources and support. Start with achievable goals and gradually increase difficulty. Build self efficacy through early wins and positive feedback. And use the shaping process, reinforcing successive approximations of desired behavior. To increase instrumentality, be transparent about how rewards are determined. Follow through consistently on promises. Make the connection between performance and outcomes clear and immediate. Use objective, defensible performance appraisal procedures as outlined in Unit 3, and communicate clearly about what behaviors and results will be rewarded. To increase balance, understand what individual employees actually value. Don't assume. Offer diverse rewards when possible: recognition, development opportunities, flexibility, advancement, compensation. Align rewards with career goals and personal values. Conduct stay interviews to understand what keeps employees engaged. Remember from Unit 3 that effective performance evaluation promotes personal development, not just rewards. The beauty of expectancy theory is that it gives you a diagnostic framework. When motivation is low, you can ask, is it an expectancy problem, an instrumentality problem, or a balance? Each requires a different solution. So we've covered three major theories: Maslow's hierarchy, goal setting theory, and expectancy theory. You might be wondering, which one is right? Here's the thing: they're not competing theories. They're complementary lenses for understanding different aspects of motivation. Maslow helps you understand what fundamental needs must be in place before other motivational strategies will work. If your retention rate is suffering, and Unit 3 emphasizes that replacing employees is expensive and disruptive, start by diagnosing whether basic needs are being met. Goal setting theory tells you how structure works and objectives to maximize performance. When you're implementing performance management systems, developing behavioral objectives for training programs, or rolling out MBO, goal setting principles should guide your approach. Expectancy theory explains why people choose to exert effort and helps you troubleshoot when motivational programs fail. It's the cognitive piece that helps you understand the thought process behind employee behavior. Here's your practical takeaway: effective motivation requires a foundation of met basic needs, which is Maslow, clear, challenging, specific goals with feedback, which is goal setting, confidence that effort leads to performance, that performance leads to valued outcomes, and that those outcomes actually matter to the employee. That is expectancy. Before we close, here are 3 things that you can do starting Monday. First, audit your current motivation engagement strategies against these theories. Are you trying to motivate with recognition when compensation is the problem? Are your goals specific and challenging, or vague and either too easy or impossibly hard? Do employees trust that good performance actually leads to rewards? Second, have honest conversations with employees, not just during annual performance reviews, but regularly. Ask, do you have what you need to succeed? Do you understand what's expected? Do you see a connection between your efforts and outcomes? What do you actually value in terms of recognition and advancement? And third, align your HR systems. Your training and development program should build expectancy. Your performance management system should clarify goals and provide feedback. Your compensation and recognition programs should provide valued outcomes that are clearly tied to performance. And your organizational culture should ensure that basic needs for safety, belonging, and respect are met. Tenet 3 reminds us that strategic alignment of training and development programs creates favorable attitudes, loyalty, and cooperation while helping employees in their personal development. But this only works when these programs are grounded in sound motivation principles. If today's discussion has you thinking about motivation and engagement in your own organization, Minor Consulting Group can help. We work with organizations to design performance management systems grounded in these evidence-based principles, develop strategic training programs that actually transfer to the workplace, and create retention strategies that address the real drivers of employee engagement, not just surface-level perks. Whether you need help conducting organizational assessments, implementing goal-setting frameworks, or building HR systems that align with behavioral science, we bring the IO psychology expertise to make it happen. Email us at letsconnect@minorconsultinggroup.com to schedule a consultation. Thank you for tuning in to this podcast. On our next episode, we will explore PHR SPHR prep, what I wish I knew before taking the exam. Be sure to subscribe to stay connected to the conversation at the intersection of psychology, business, and human resources. I'm Dr. Jacqueline Miner. I'll see you soon.